Hello, everyone. Welcome back after a long few months. And I am back and ready to be discussing the cases that have been piling up while I was gone for the last few months. And while I was gone, I was still researching cases. I was still keeping up with them all, and there are a lot. And I am starting off this new chapter by telling you the story and the case of a woman named Lacey Fletcher. And this case is, as usual, a horrifying one, and it's extremely sad. So at the time of Lacey Fletcher's death, she was a 36-year-old woman living in Slaughter, Louisiana, which the name of the town just gives me bad vibes right off of the start. But at 36 years old, Lacey was still living at home with her parents, Kait and Sheila Fletcher. Now, according to her parents, Lacey had severe autism and an extreme case of social anxiety, which aided to the reason as to why she was still living at home at 36 years old. Now, it is reported that Lacey did have some sort of autism spectrum disorder as well as Asperger's. Her symptoms ranged from everything from having trouble with social skills as well as obsessive focus. Now, due to her symptoms, Lacey only attended school until the 9th grade, and then she was enrolled in homeschooling. Now, there was this report that stated that Lacey had something called locked-in syndrome, which basically is described as having complete paralysis of your muscles except for your eyes. So you're basically paralyzed, but you can still think and see and look around, but you can't move. But take that with a grain of sand, because there are medical officials associated with this case that claim that they have never used that term before or really heard of it before. So that is all we really know about 36-year-old Lacey Fletcher. But this is where things take a turn for the worst. On January 3rd of 2022, so just at the beginning of this year, Sheila, who is Lacey's mother, called 911 and reported that her daughter had stopped breathing. Now, when emergency services would arrive, they would find Lacey dead. And Lacey wasn't just found, laying in her bed, not breathing in a normal state. Lacey's partially naked body was found covered in feces, urine, maggots, as well as insect bites. Her hair was also matted and filled with maggots. Feces was covering her face, her body, the couch she was laying on. Lacey would later be found to only be weighing 96 pounds at the time of her death. Now, you may think that all sounds pretty horrific, but that's not the worst of it. Lacey was found on this couch, sitting cross-legged, and she had not moved for years. She had not moved from that couch for so long that she had pretty much worn through the fabric of the couch and had fused to the couch due to all of the bodily fluids that she had been relieving herself on this couch. And that's where we get these photos that flashed across the internet. A literal puddle of fluids inside of a worn out cushion on a couch. Lacey had been sitting on that couch in her own feces and urine for years. It's estimated to be about 12 years. That's horrific. Now, DailyMail.com was allegedly given access to view the crime scene photos. And what I'm about to describe to you that they seen in these photos is even worse. So if you do not want to hear anything worse than I've already described, I would click out or skip ahead. But this is reality. And even though we may feel uncomfortable hearing details like this was Lacey Fletcher's life. She lived through that, and she died because of it. So the least we can do is sit here and listen to what she had to go through and hope that maybe Lacey can get justice in this case. But I believe that we need to sit here and be uncomfortable and hear these details of this case so that we can truly understand the gravity of it and understand why her parents should be held responsible. DailyMail.com described these images and Lacey to be almost buried up to her shoulders in the wide and deep hole of the sofa. She is slumped over on her left side with her right arm across the top half of her emaciated body near her neck. She is naked apart from a small blue patterned t-shirt, which is pulled up to her chest and does not cover her breasts. Her eyes are wide open and staring. Her mouth is also open, revealing what appears to be a full set of front teeth. Her legs are pulled apart and crossed under her. Her face is covered in large and angry red blotches. Excrement is smeared almost all over her body. It's even inside of her ears. The brown leather sofa that served as her prison is alongside a wall with a gap of about 18 inches. Astonishingly, to the couch's right side is a gray commode and a neat pile of clothes, and to the front, only a few feet away, is a cluttered, low black table. It is strewn with lotion bottles, some talcum powder, a pack of wipes and nasal spray, a box with a lid that had a child's photo on it, and other items that make it appear that the Fletchers had the resources to clean their stricken only child. Between the sofa and the table are two neatly stacked boxes of DVDs. It is not possible to discern the titles, but some appear to be childlike from the covers. Close-ups shown of the flesh of her buttocks appear to be literally worn and eaten away from the 12 years that she hadn't moved from the couch. There are large, raw, yellow areas where the skin has disappeared. Other back and buttocks areas are so blackened it is impossible for a layperson to identify any shape or form. Sit with that for a moment. That is what were in these images that Daily Mail seen. Now, if you remember the baby Sterling case that I covered, it's a case where a baby was left in a swing, in a diaper, for weeks and wasn't fed and wasn't changed. And you'll remember that ulcers formed due to him sitting in that filth for so long. And pretty much the same exact thing happened to Lacey. But she was an adult, and she had adults around who were in their right mind, who weren't high on drugs, like in baby Sterling's case, that seemed to have done nothing to prevent this. Lacey was sitting on that couch in her own urine, her own feces, and that led to ulcers forming across the whole underside of her body, and she was essentially rotting into that couch. She was essentially rotting to the bone. And just like in the baby Sterling case, Lacey was found by the medical examiner to have died from severe medical neglect. And this led to chronic malnutrition, starvation, immobility, acute ulcer formations, and a bone infection that led to sepsis. The medical examiner also speculated that Lacey may have been sitting in her own filth for up to 12 years. And that honestly kind of tracks because it's really unclear when the last time Lacey was ever really seen outside of the home other than her parents seeing her. The last time she even left that couch is unknown. The last time Lacey had seen a doctor was when she was 16 years old, so that was 20 years earlier. At the time of that appointment, all Lacey was really diagnosed with was social anxiety and severe autism. There wasn't really anything to say that she, was immobile. Now, in 2010, Sheila and Clay allegedly consulted a doctor on what they should do since Lacey wasn't wanting to leave their home, describing her as being a total recluse. The doctor advised them to bring her to the hospital, but there was no records after that where she even was shown to have been brought to a hospital. And there was also no treatment given. So if Lacey was in such a state that they thought they needed to reach out to medical professionals, why didn't they go and get help? And we will learn that Sheila and Clay Fletcher had no excuse to help their daughter because unlike many other cases, just like the baby Sterling case, where Sterling's parents, were heavily into drug use, which, was a leading factor to why what happened to baby Sterling happened. Not that it was an excuse to what have happened. It should not have happened either way. But these really were normal, regular, everyday people that no one would have suspected that this was happening in their home. Lacey's mother, Sheila Fletcher, was reported to have worked at a court and police clerk office and was also recently working as an assistant to the city prosecutor. Sheila and Clay Fletcher were also longtime residents of Slaughter. They were also really well known in their community. The Fletchers lived in a normal-looking home. They had normal jobs, and the community thought they were just normal people. Meanwhile, their daughter was dying on their living room sofa. Authorities have said this is one of the worst cases of neglect they have ever seen. Hearing that, some neighbors were even shocked to hear that the Fletchers had a daughter, which says a lot. They were such longtime residents of this community, such well-known pillars in their community, and people didn't even know they had a child. That really says that Lacey never left that house, that no one's seen her, considering that her parents were always out at work and, out doing things. But Lacey wasn't. Lacey was on that couch. It wouldn't be until about 4 months later, on May 2nd, that Sheila and Clay Fletcher would finally be arrested for the death of their daughter, and they are being indicted on second-degree murder. If found guilty, these charges carry a mandatory life sentence without parole. So, what do Clay and Lacey Fletcher have to say about this whole situation? Well, they are claiming that Lacey was of sound mind up until the very end, that she never complained about the sores, and that Sheila would routinely wash Lacey's sores, which is just odd to me considering how bad they were. If Sheila was doing such a good job of taking care of her daughter, why were her sores so bad that she was literally rotting to death and died? Why, if they had such a pristine, clean home, it seemed like, was their daughter rotting on their couch? You'd think that if Sheila was going to be taking such good care of those wounds that Lacey had in her open sores, that she wouldn't let her be placed back onto a couch that was soaked with urine and feces. Like, the logic just doesn't track for me there. They also claimed that Lacey was the one that refused to leave the living room and that she refused to even leave to use the washroom. So they ended up bringing all of her meals to the living room and set up a makeshift washroom in the living room, which I think ended up just being like some towels or something, which is just, It's shocking to me. Now, this is just my opinion, and I really don't have that much experience at all with special needs adults. But if you have a child or an adult that is that sick, that they are refusing to go and use a toilet that is in their own home. Again, I understand there are people out there with legitimate, anxieties and fears where they don't want to leave their home and stuff. She doesn't have to leave the home if she doesn't want to leave the home. The washroom in the house that you are then piling towels on in a corner of your living room for your adult child to defecate and urinate in. Something needs to happen. Wouldn't you seek outside help? And clearly they did, because there was that one report where they contacted, a hospital or whatever, doctor, but then they never followed up on it. It's not like they didn't have any resources. Surely there had to be some kind of help out there for situations like that. Anything would have been better than letting your child rot on a sofa for over a decade. And if you have any experience with special needs children or adults, please let's have a conversation about this down in the comment section. But there has to be some help out there or some way that's better than letting someone either urinate or defecate in the corner of a room or literally on themselves on a couch for over a decade where they are literally rotting to death and then die. There has to be something better than that. And again, it's not like they didn't have the resources. Now, despite all of this, after 36 hours of being arrested, Clay and Sheila were both let out on bond for $300,000. And that's all that there really is to know at this point in time. I'm going to do a little quick check here to see if any updates have happened since I originally researched the case. Let's see. Okay, so it seems that the parents pled not guilty to the second-degree murder charges. So yeah, there doesn't seem to be any updates online really of any other like court hearings or anything going on at the moment. That seems to kind of be the gist of it. So after hearing all of those horrid details, how do you all feel about this case? I was shocked when I heard this happened to baby Sterling, and now I am shocked all over again hearing this happened to an adult. The circumstances made sense with the baby Sterling case, with his parents being on drugs, et cetera, et cetera. But for the fact that these were grown adults who had normal jobs, they didn't have any, issues that it seemed like on the surface. Nothing's come out that they had any issues that should have, stopped them from getting help. They had resources. Sheila literally worked with the courthouses and stuff. Like she should know the law on top of that, not just like morally you shouldn't do this to a person. Like should know the repercussions. It blows my mind that this happened again. And I want you all to keep Lacey in your thoughts. She didn't deserve any of that. She didn't deserve to be rotting to death on a couch for over a decade. And in my opinion, her parents deserve to be punished for that. So let's have a chat about this down below. Again, welcome back. Yeah, thank you all for your patience over the last few months while I was searching for this apartment. If you want to see like the IRL side of life with me, I would definitely recommend checking out my TikTok. You can follow me on the Instagram. Like all that stuff's linked down below. My second YouTube channel, I'm going to probably start posting on that in the near future. Also going to be starting streaming on Twitch if you're interested in any like video game content or anything like that. That's kind of like my IRL stuff, but discussing these cases and telling these stories is something that I am really passionate about. And this is stuff that actually like makes me feel fulfilled. Whereas like playing video games and stuff like that is kind of like a distressor and like just something I like to do for fun. Thank you for staying and waiting. But if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified when I do post more cases. Again, I am back at it. So I will be here every week with you. And yeah, again, keep Lacey in your thoughts. If there are any updates on this case, I will be back to update you all on it. And I will see you all in the next case.